Welcome to Real Rover. I'm your roving host, John Craig. Real Rover へようこそ、クレイグ・ジョンでございます。Introducing you to people you would never have heard of if it wasn't for Real Rover. Here we go. Mario Gomez Mayorga.
That's right. Perfect.
Welcome to Real Rover, and
Thank you.
we're speaking after having encountered many difficulties with the technology today, but we've managed to connect. Tell us where you are.
I am located in Mexico, in a state called Chiapas.
Yeah.
In the area of the rainforest. So I live in the jungle together with monkeys.
How far from Palenque?
Oh, I am in Palenque.
Oh, you are in Palenque. Oh, wow, that's fantastic. I love Palenque.
Welcome home.
I love Palenque. You know, how many times I've been to Palenque. Every time is just brilliant. And the forest there is so spectacular. So you've been in Palenque. Tell us for how long? You were born there? What's your background?
No, I was born in Mexico City. And since I was like 13 or 12 years old, I promised myself to get out of there as soon as I could, which I did. And then I was living in the Caribbean. I run as far as I could from civilization. And I was living there when there was nothing, and I enjoyed it very much. And then through the years, it became a mad place with a city next to the ocean, and I had to run again to the jungle. So I've been in Palenque for some 25 years now.
Okay, so right from the start, then you are strongly against modern civilization. Let's say you had an allergy to civilization.
Yeah.
Where do you think that comes from?
Well, it comes from the fact of being born in the biggest city of the planet and having to deal with the constant noise and pollution and traffic jams and excessive amount of people and noise. I mean, it's just pollution everywhere. The visuals, what you eat, and the air, and everything is polluted. So my spirit could not stand it. When I came back to the city after studying in Europe, I thought I wanted to work there and make a living. And then one day I was in a traffic jam for like 2 hours or 3 hours. And then I thought, well, you know, I'm driving 2 hours a day to go to my job, 2 hours back. This is 4 hours a day, locked in a car where I don't want to be. So every 10 days is 40 hours. So every month is so many. So every year, and then I said in 10 years and 50 years, no, I'm not going to invest this amount of life sitting in a car. And that day I quit my job. And that day I packed to run away to the Caribbean.
Where were you in Europe, Mario?
In Switzerland.
Wow.
Yeah. Everything is like a postcard.
And so you went, what was your idea going to Switzerland?
To study industrial design.
Oh, wow, to study industrial design.
In German.
Wow. So it's almost as if that was like you had a virus in your program there somewhere that was telling you, you know, listen to the virus, you need to study industrial design in German just to really mess with your head so that you can remember who you are so that you can return to where you have to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, it was like an antidote.
Yeah.
Made from real poison.
Real poison. And, you know, I just looked at the journey that you've come back from where you took a group of people to a very special place. And no doubt they were from backgrounds that were definitely not the jungle. What kind of people went with you on this journey?
It was a very small group. When I take people to very powerful places, I like to do it with very small groups. because also the invitation is for people who are trying to solve some kind of problem or issue or illness or grief or things like that. So they really need support and attention. So it was a small group. One of them was a doctor, a chiropractor that works for elders who have a lot of time in bed. And because of that, they have a lot of problems with the skeleton and wounds and this kind of things. But he was dealing with a severe existential problem because he dove very deep into what's going on in the planet these days. And he found out that there's not much time left and not much nature left, and that it's exponential and that it will be every time worse. And he also met a lot of specialists on the subject who told him the truths of many studies, and he ended up sort of depressed, I guess. And he had plans for a lifetime that all of a sudden were sterile or useless because he realized those plans could not fit in the time that is left. So he had this huge doubt about what to do with the remaining time, if there is, what to do. There was this other woman who came with a series of griefs that were like layered one on top of the other. And the most recent was her mother, who she says was like her soul sister. They were very, very close together, and this was devastating for her. And this other woman who comes from New York, one guy is from Venezuela, but he lives in the States. This other woman that comes with the grief is from Philippines, but lives in the States. And the other girl is from New York, and she had a lot of curiosity about how to be a better person. She heard about these possibilities to open to consciousness, but she's never tried anything like it. And it's her first time, like an initiation somehow. And another person was facing a life-threatening parasite in the blood. So it was intense to work with these people, challenging, but really beautiful. And I'm very glad that they all understood the tools and the possibilities well enough to work on themselves and solve their issues. And to be witness of people doing those things is very satisfying. So it was very, very good experience.
Well, we're looking at your website now, Mario. You know, many people watching this will be aware of the shamanic paradigm, let's call it for lack of a better word, ways of dealing with these very profound issues that the modern world seems almost totally incapable of even approaching, not even approaching. So it's very important to look at the path with a heart, which is how your website opens. The Toltec procedure. I like this naming, especially procedure. You must have put a lot of thought into that word procedure. And some people may be familiar with the word Toltec, but you know, unless you're into Mesoamerican studies, it's, I've heard about it maybe once or twice. I've heard about the Toltecs. So could you give us a brief introduction to what this word, the Toltec, means?
Yeah, of course. The Toltecs are like the main root from where all the other indigenous nations developed. The very first trace that we have of an indigenous culture in Mexico were the Olmecs, almost primitive people. Through time from there, the Toltecs originated, and it's one of those mysteries in life, but these people are the ones who came to the planet with astronomy, architecture, medicine, poetry, numbers, philosophy, etc., etc. A culture, a full culture. And the dominant aspect of the Toltecs is that they were seekers of themselves. They had this passion for opening to consciousness. And the reason I like this word to frame our work is because I found out that there are also a lot of people these days who wish to seek for themselves and to engage with consciousness. So Toltecs are not extinct as we might think. Today it's not so much like a lost indigenous nation, but more a kind of people that is still alive in the quest of life.
It's a very positive way of looking at it, Mario, because the facts for many of us about indigenous cultures, whether they be in this country, where we have a very ancient indigenous culture up in the North Island of Hokkaido,
yes,
who are nothing like the Japanese at all, and don't consider themselves anything to do with the Japanese. They're called the Ainu. And these people share the same symbology and stories as the West Coast Salish in Canada, who I spent quite a bit of time with. The West Coast bands of Canada are very familiar with the Ainu, and I said to the Ainu chief, "How are you guys?" He said, "We've been communicating for thousands of years. You know, we've known each other for thousands of years. You white guys know nothing." And so they've been incredibly marginalized in an advanced technological nation like Japan, where they've got everything on the surface very much under control, but they have this ghost in the cabinet. Just like every other country has the ghost in the cabinet, which is your indigenous people ghost in the cabinet, right?
Exactly.
And like, what about these guys, right? They have been conveniently forgotten and almost wiped out. And so it's for me, having worked with people all over the world for many years, it's like, how come this can be so brilliantly covered up everywhere that we're destroying unique cultures and languages and mythologies and folklores and healing systems and you name it. We're destroying it faster than we're destroying the Amazon jungle. Yeah. And nobody seems to have the consciousness that, wait a minute, this is really, really a big problem here. And so maybe you can comment on that, because you're obviously from such a culture, and this must have been like growing up. I don't know, tell us.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you're saying, and I think this is worldwide. It's very sad to see how we Mexicans destroy the purest Mexicans that we have, especially the government. And the reason behind it is really dark because, for example, in Mexico, like the majority of the territory of the country belongs to indigenous nations.
Oh.
And it's a very rich country in resources. And the system wants those resources. We are talking about minerals and metals and oil, water, forests, jungles, incredible amount of resources that even when it's a manifestation of the spirit, life, and an incredible biodiversity that holds life in place, the system only sees these things as a possibility to profit billions. And that's the main reason why they are trying to get rid of indigenous people since ever. It's a non-stop thing. And they've created very weird like a silent ghost that slowly goes into the indigenous cultures. And this is very sad because lately they feel ashamed of being indigenous.
Yeah.
Because the system has grown so much everywhere that they feel less because they don't have a computer, money, an office, an airplane, whatever. They've somehow ingrained these ideas into them that all those things are better, they are good, they are more intelligent, they are desirable, and they feel less. And it's very sad through the years visiting these people, how I've seen them lose their traditional dressing, even their language. The very new generations don't want to learn their language anymore because they think it's much better to speak Spanish. And some even speak Spanish and English if they work in the tourist zones. Many fleet to the States looking for dollars. And then some of them on the way understand that they should have never gone and they try to come back, but then the ones who stayed don't accept them anymore because their minds are polluted. So it's very sad, very, very sad. And together with this, the elders cannot tell their stories and their legends and their myths in ceremony to the young ones because the young ones are trying to make dollars somewhere else, or they are working in the tobacco fields for Philip Morris or things like that. So we've been struggling, trying to convince them to go back to their things, because as the elders are dying, they are taking big chunks of their knowledge, of their history, of their myths and legends, because no one heard them, and they are lost when they die. Very sad.
Yeah, it's a massive planetary cultural catastrophe that is almost impossible to figure out how this could have happened. For all of the white man's apparent intelligence and knowledge and ability to not see, to not understand the importance of the diversity of these millions of cultures and languages, what a rich resource that is beyond money. The fact that we're the ones who did it, the white men, I'm perfectly clear about this. I'm from Scotland, and, we gave the world a lot of its inventions and engineering and systems and law and all of this shit that managed to trap everybody else. We gave them it. And so I feel a personal responsibility for it seemed like a really good idea at the time, but why wasn't one of us awake enough to see the permutations a few generations on would mean you got no more indigenous people, you got no more healing systems, no more plants, you got everybody speaking the same stupid language, buying the same garbage from the same shops. And what's the next step from that is called the end.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's just called the end. I mean, you don't have to be a genius to figure this out.
Yeah.
So what amazes me is at this stage in my life, like, how in the hell did this come down? I mean, it's almost beyond comprehension, and yet you've described it from your point of view. I've described it from what I see very clearly, and I'm not making this up, and you're not making this up, right? And
there's this group of people that are in the north that I frequent very much. They're the most preserved ethnic group we have. And for years, they've been calling us Tewari. Oh. The word sounds very nice, probably because it ends up with an I, Tewari. And it's like sweet. And it's like, hello, Tewari, goodbye, Tewari, be a good person, Tewari, blah, blah, blah. And after, we were always doing important things with them, and I never really took attention to figure out this word until after 15 years. One day I asked one of them, can you tell me what Tewari means? And then he said, do you know these night butterflies? And I said, yeah, the moths. He said, okay, have you seen that they lay eggs? Yeah, sure. Have you seen what comes out of the eggs? I said, yeah, these little worms. And then, have you seen what these little worms do? Well, yeah, they eat everything like paper and clothes and wood and everything. He said, yeah, have you seen what's left behind where these little worms pass by? And I said, yeah, dust. He said, well, yeah, those little worms are called te worries.
Oh, wow. What a great story. What a great story.
And yeah, that day I understood that civilized man it destroys everything that touches.
Yeah, yeah. Destroys absolutely everything and still manages to maintain. So it's really, it's us that have the virus.
Yeah.
It's like some kind of cosmic virus, some kind of a hijack program that was inserted. I mean, I don't want to blame anybody in particular. You know, you can't blame people. It's a reality. But it's so absurd now, the level that we're at, you know, where you have these monkeys running national governments, you know, racist monkeys without having to tell the names, you know, I mean, and everybody just sits there, and we're dealing with mass insanity. Today we've got a very good possibility of a war with Iran brewing in the Gulf of Hormuz, you know, and none of us can do anything to stop it. None of our wisdom traditions or anything will have the slightest impact on a few, you know, wasps in government who want to have their war. And so you know, the young people, the old people, everybody's faced with this. So here you have an idea, you have a sacred idea that the Toltec procedure, teach yourself the joyful and profound art of acting on purpose, the practical way to become who your heart really wishes to be, right? Now that sounds like a very, very high level aim to have on a crazy monkey planet like this, but you seem to be getting results. So tell us more about this procedure.
I found through visiting indigenous communities, especially the most preserved groups in Mexico, that they behave in a very special way. Took me many years to understand it, because these people are people of silence and are people of actions. They don't like to be talking things. They like to do. And at the beginning, because I was a talking person, I was making questions, and I never received answers. Every time I made a question, they told me like, who knows? What do you mean, who knows? I want to know the answer. And there was never an answer. And one day when I discovered they were not answering, I decided to shut up and watch. And took me many years to learn to observe carefully and see that these people, especially in the ceremonies and in the rituals, they behave in a very specific way. And in the way that I also saw that people who don't know observe very sharply those who do know, in the way they behave, in the ways they move. And then they mimic them, especially like in long walks, in pilgrimages, in dances around the fire, in confessions with the fire, in order, in the way they do things. So that way I was able to figure out a lot of things that they do. And I began mimicking them even back home. And without really noticing when, this changed me into a completely different person who was having a fantastic relationship with life, with myself, with nature. And even my friends noticed at a certain point and said, what the hell happened to you? You're so different. You were normally so angry, so neurotic, so desperate, so annoying, so dumb. Now you're a completely different person. And I didn't realize this until they told me. And then there was this very close friend who said, can you teach me this that you learned? Because I see that you learned something. And then I was like in silence, because I didn't remember learning anything, until I discovered that this very slowly crept into myself. And then one day I told to him, listen, I cannot put this in words, but I was doing with these people things. Now I understand these things. Doing these things, something happened to me. I can take you to nature, and I can show you things I mimic from them. So we began walking. They walk in a very special way, in silence, synchronizing their breath with their steps, for many hours. You know about walking. This thing alters your consciousness really profound and very strong. And you end up with heightened states of awareness, very similar to sacred plants, just by walking and breathing deep. And this guy was amazed, and he brought his friends, and his friends brought his friends. And sometime the parents of my friends came to me and said, "What are you doing to my kid?" And I was like, "Oh, now I'm in trouble." He said, "No, don't worry, because we like it. And if you don't mind, we would also like to go to the forest. We don't know what you're doing." He just tells me that you go to the forest. So the parents of my friends were walking, and we began walking. And then through the years, I was able to, let's say, translate to our understanding many of the things that I saw from them, because if you mimic them just like they do, they are very abstract and they are not really understandable. So I like tweak things a little bit to be understood.
Yeah.
But what I understood from the Toltec world is that it's a series of procedures, techniques, tools to be used, that if done, they are actions that you build on your life, like building bricks, and you can make a construction that is yourself. And you can decide on purpose exactly with incredible precision, who do you want to be? Learning to control your mind and your actions and your emotions. Stop doing things you don't like, adding things you would like to do of that person that you dream you would be. Well, if you dream of a person you want to be, why don't you do it instead of dreaming it? And actually, the foundation of this is very simple. The problem is when you try to do it, because you crash against the inertia of your habits and your routines and your ego. But it takes time, but it's possible. And every step that you achieve is so satisfying. And that's why I present this like a procedure, because it's really a procedure. And the name I chose to present this, Conciencia Indígena, con is with, ciencia is science, but conciencia means consciousness.
That's
so it's
right.
it's a word game that somehow tries to point that there is a science in the indigenous world, which is a procedure like sciences. And if you apply it in an experimental way on yourself, you can get results that you can learn from. So based on that, we created a lot of workshops with different styles or kinds of tools to address different aspects of your person, your life, your emotions, your traumas, your fears, basically to get rid of all the junk that we were polluted by the system and the strange world where we grew and we were born. So it's like an antidote for the virus.
Very elegantly explained and understandable in this culture, because unlike the European American model of reality, which is all based on very tricky word language, most indigenous cultures and deeply practical cultures are action-based. And here we have thousands of years of profound training to turn people into, at least decent human beings as the starting point, people with a moral code that is unspoken, because it's like obvious you don't do that to other people. If
Right.
you want to have a sane society, you just don't do that stuff, right?
Right.
And especially being a warrior culture, it's all about action. You try and learn anything here, whether it be flower arrangement or karate or any traditional art. I mean, there is nothing explained at all. Like, this is how you walk, practice. This is how you sit, practice. This is how you stand, practice. And I'll never forget, as a young Westerner wanting to get their thing, which was their culture, their Zen, right? And I was doing Zen archery and firing, trying to hit the target. And the teachers are all sitting there drinking tea like this monkey is, and And after 2 years, I goes to the teacher. I said, teacher, tell me now, how do I hit the target? And he said, hit the target? You don't even know how to walk.
Huh.
After 2 years. Like,
Wow.
You don't even know how to walk. And I was just absolutely, I was shaken, like, what does that mean? And now I understand that when you learn how to walk properly, with consciousness and attention to how you walk, then you learn how to kneel. And then you learn how to stand. And then you start talking about drawing a bow. Wow. And then you can talk about hitting 20 years later. So what I've just described is the typical modern human thinks, I have a problem, here's the explanation, and I just have to put the two together and everything's going to be ducky. Well, forget that.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's
a fantasy.
Like your depressed, participant, the chiropractor, like, we're at the end now of this game, and there isn't an explanation. You got to change your actions from the core. And so it's very refreshing to hear of somebody who's actually doing this with other people, and not giving them some bullshit, Aboriginal explanation about reality that we're supposed to understand, the spirit world and blah, blah, right? No, you got to walk, breathe. And so you kind of learned by osmosis, and you started to naturally involve other people in the work, and out of this developed your workshops. So tell us how long you've been working with people, Mario.
Whoa, it's probably 35 years already.
Wow. Yeah,
I never thought I would be doing this. Actually, when I began getting related with indigenous people, was because a friend created a non-governmental association, and I just wanted to help. But I was not even into seeking for this like many people are. They read Carlos Castaneda and they go running looking for Don Juan or Carlos. Yeah. But I was not into this thing. And so it just happened so naturally. I didn't really know how this happened. And when I began sharing this with people, it was just sharing with my close friends. And I thought that was going to be the end. But they began bringing their brothers and their sisters. And then the parents came, and then the parents brought their friends. And this thing has been going on for so many years, and I really do nothing. People keep on coming because in the last time we worked together, the people talk about it, and their friends come, and it's just like that. It doesn't stop. So at a certain point, I realized I had a responsibility because this was not going to stop. And at the beginning, it was very messy the way I transmitted this or I shared this with people, because I had like no order, and I didn't care if it was gonna be easy or difficult. I just like poured all the thing on top of them. And for some was even overwhelming because I didn't have any consideration how fast they could understand. I just poured the whole thing. And for some was a bit too much. So one day I understood I had a responsibility, and I had to be very careful because I was dealing with these deep aspects of people, and people is fragile. And so for it's maybe 15 years, I got serious about creating this workshop structure to share these things carefully and respectfully and professionally, from simple to understand to more complex things, in a way that people could really digest it and take the most out of it. But it just happens. I don't know how.
Well, that's a very organic explanation. I mean, most transformative work, for lack of a better word, is messy. It rarely works out how you want it to work. I mean, I took people for many years to the Amazon to work with a shaman. And, I predicated their experience on my own, which was a big mistake. Because I was just fortunate. I had wonderful, beautiful, deep, amazing, shocking, horrific experiences. And I thought, wow, everybody should do this. And so I took a bunch of people to the Amazon, and Don Ignacio fired them up. And at the end of the session, half of them went, nothing happened. And what? I don't comprehend nothing. How can nothing happen? Right? And then perhaps in a small way, similar to you, I go, wait a minute. It's not that simple. Everybody's different. Everybody's speed is different. Everybody's needs are different. Can't stick them into a process and expect them all to come automated out the other end. You know, that's not how it works. So you learned, no doubt, through painful experience that, wait a minute, I gotta, you know, and so did I. Like, I went to the Amazon 9 times with people, you know, and it was pretty much always the same. Half of the people completely changed. The other half, like, I want my money back. Well, they're Japanese. No. They're Japanese. They would never do that. But I mean, like, so what was all that about, you know?
Yeah.
But they can see other people going through it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they know it's not bullshit. They can see that. And this guy, Tanaka, he really got it, but I didn't get it. Maybe something's wrong with me. And then you have to deal with that. So you've evolved this. And now you're working with people from all over the world. Now, what do you see in your work as being some of the real core, deep issues that people are banging up against right now?
Basically, I think the same things that people have been dealing with since ever. You know, grief. A lot of people with grief.
Yeah.
A lot of people with existential questions. Many people who come with this new age thing, like, I just want to be happy. And oh, come on, it's not, I just want to be happy. It's going to be more complex. Let's try to do something about that.
Yeah.
I get a lot of people who come just for curiosity. It never works for them. This is not for curiosity. These things, I discover that people who really need them, like if they are thirsty for water, are the ones who apply them, because you have to work. You have to apply things on your person. I lately, for the last 5-6 years, I've been visited by a lot of elders.
Oh.
I've been fascinated with elders. And one of them explained me why they are so serious and why they work so well, because they are incredible warriors, and they advance very fast. I'm amazed. And they told me, you know, we are now seeing the gate portal to the end of our life, and there is no time to waste. And I'm not playing. I'm serious. I need to do my things fast. I don't know if I'm awake tomorrow. And this was fascinating, to be aware that you're immortal has such a fascinating power on people. And youngsters believe that they are immortal, so they don't really care to understand very much. Very few who are really trying to wake up, but very few. Normally, the young people, they feel really that they are immortal, that they will never get sick, that they are powerful forever. And it's been very interesting to see all the age range. I also work with kids. Those are very interesting because you can give them seeds when they are forming themselves, and the seeds hatch very much, and then they don't allow to be manipulated by their parents. And this is fascinating to see.
I can just imagine what the parents are saying after they come back from working with Mario. Like,
now, you know, one thing that I found very important is when I do workshops for children, it's a requirement that the parents are there.
Oh,
I want the parents to see what's going to happen and why their children are going to be different after that. And many of the dynamics, I make adults and children play together with fantastic techniques and toys that are going to make them relate in unusual ways. So I guess we deal with a basic human being growing.
Yeah, I'm glad that you gave such a straight answer. It's not like we modern people are particularly messed up. These are issues that everybody faces. And the one you just brought up, mortality, you know, if you are a warrior spirit, you will use that remaining time properly. But if you've been indoctrinated into the system, like here, you see the long-lived people in Japan. And so you see people who in their mid-60s, they're discarded from the system. They're ejected.
Like here.
They're getting their pension. And around this area where I live, you see these ghost guys with little dogs on leashes, smoking cigarettes, looking at the ground, walking around every day.
Wow.
Right? And nobody seems to realize these guys are in huge existential crisis. Because, well, that's what you do. And if you're in Canada, even younger, you retire to the good life and you get in your Winnebago and you go to Florida. And nobody seems to figure out that, wait a minute, where's the awareness of the mortality? So you've met people who have that awareness. We have people here who are very much in need of such action-based teachings. So they have the awareness. They know that they're not going to last forever, but they still have a lot of investment in this over here cushion just in case, but there's enough interest to take the adventurous leap, right? And so we've been working with people for 30 years too, who have that interest. They're willing to go to the Amazon or wherever we take them, and definitely they make use of that time. This brings us to the interesting potential of working together with people who have that understanding, who want to make the change, and you are there in Palenque, which, a lot of people listening don't know anything about Palenque. So there's a quick snapshot of what is Palenque like? What is Chiapas State like now? The reality, there's the jungle, there's the towns, there's all of this Mexican stuff going on. The government want everybody to be the way they want them to be. And so you've got this incredible volatile mix. So what is Palenque for you right now?
Palenque is like it was, because now the government has their eyes on this land, unfortunately. But it was like a forgotten state of Mexico. There was like nothing going on here, but it's an incredible rich state. It has jungles, it has forests, it has basically all of the sweet water of the country. Like 70% of the sweet water of the country is in this area. Actually, the water that Mexico City drinks is pumped from Chiapas every day.
Wow.
An incredible amount of water for 40 million people. And it's always there. It's not even less water. It's always there. There's like forever water here. An incredible resource. There's many indigenous groups here. But it's very strange because since it was a forgotten place, there is like no law. People can do whatever they want here, either good or bad, and nobody even cares. Name it on either side. But if you find your space, you can create a fantastic little universe to live your life, as peaceful or as profound or as rich as you want. So that's probably what attracted me. The Maya culture in the state is very important. There's a lot of archaeological sites, amazing places such as Palenque. There are others that are equally incredible, just that they are not famous like Palenque. The waterfalls and their turquoise rivers and the amount of biodiversity, the animals. I mean, it's just mind-blowing, like an entire planet. So that's basically what Palenque is, and that's why I like to live here. And I like to invite people here because a lot of the work that we do is about relating with nature. And here we have a possibility to engage with the spirit of water, working in waterfalls and rivers, and with the spirit of the trees. There are these giant, beautiful trees. And with the spirit of the fire and Mother Earth and all these intelligences that fuse together to form life. And this is a splendid place, very peaceful, very powerful, and very straightforward to open communication and understand that we are made of it. So I invite a lot of people to work here because I love this place. It's full of life.
Yeah, so do I. I had I went to Tonina with my wife and there was nobody else there. And I'll never forget it. We have this incredible site, archaeological site, a step pyramid. Nobody's there. Maybe one guardman is there. And I just read last week that archaeologists have discovered that there is something way bigger hidden in the jungle than the tiny little thing they call Tonina, pyramid. And I went, whoa, because we know that all the bumps in the forest are actually not hills. The Mexican government just hasn't had the money to excavate them all. So you've got this massive cultural treasure trove still sleeping in the jungle. And just that alone, because we were in Egypt last month and we were talking about how the Egyptian consciousness was so evolved that they could actually leave almost like messages in stone. They could transmit conscious imagery, energy, healing techniques, information directly into stone. So these beautiful stone statues are not just visual appreciations, they are living, teaching artifacts, if you know how to get into them, right? And in the same way, these sites where you have archaeological remains can be accessed by people who know how to access them. But the work with nature, and I'll never forget the heat and the sound of the insects, and we had some cheese with us. And so we sat down to have some wine and cheese, and there's these huge stones, broken, lying around us, which should be in a museum. No, they probably aren't a museum, no. These are Mayan engravings, and nobody got around to collecting them at that point, which was 1995. So, you're saying it's still a beautiful place, which I wanted to hear, that it hasn't been overrun by maniacs, that you can still live quietly and peacefully and enjoy the nature which still exists, and with all of that water. So that was really good news. Thank you. We're coming.
Welcome home, please.
We are coming. Next.
You know what you say? I walk a lot in the jungle where there are no trails. And I can gladly tell you that the jungle is full of things. I have found stairways and aqueducts and bridges and rooms, and it's a gigantic city buried in silence there, untouched. It's there, as you say. And yeah, you feel it's like a sleeping being. It knows things. It's there.
I like the image of a sleeping being. But how do you access that sleeping being is you have to have the procedure.
Yeah.
And your experience has given you such a procedure. It might not be instant, but it's certainly worth the risk to access such a lost world, because if we don't start accessing this lost world, we will be the lost world. Clearly, we are the lost world already. So there is that sense of urgency, and people here feel that too. And especially the women, the majority of the people we work with are women. They have the luxury of time and the luxury of being able to use money how they feel will profit them best. And so they're willing and open and ready, and they don't want to go on some guided tour to a shopping mall. Those days are over. They want to go on a real adventure and learn something that will profit their lives, which is why we're going to come back to the Yucatan and to Chiapas for the 10th time, I think, and would very much be interested in working with you, Mario. And I believe, tell us about is it your partner, your wife, who I see on the face? I'll get this screen up again so we can see more of your work.
Yes, please. Oh, she is an incredible person. You'll find her in the About section.
There we go. There's this incredible photograph of the two of you together. It's just like, wow. Everybody.
I can tell you probably somehow some beautiful gift of life, because she and I are like the same creature.
There she is. What a beautiful photograph of you two. Like, wow. Where was this taken?
This is in a place that we visit very often. It's the Huirrárica Desert up in the north in Mexico. Huirráricas are best known as Huicholes.
Huicholes.
The most preserved ethnic group that there is in Mexico.
I see.
Yeah.
The most preserved. I didn't know that about the Huichol. Okay.
Yeah, the most preserved. They are living. There is this group. The Huicholes have separated in 5 groups, okay, and they differ in ideologies among them. The group that we work with is the one I call the Orthodox, because they are living exactly or almost exactly like 4,000 years ago. Wow. It's like a time machine. And these people are basically Toltecs. That's from whom I have learned the most.
I see.
Rocio is, we work together. We do these workshops together all the time. But she has the feminine point of view for all these things. And of course, she has a different way of relating to all this. She is into health, seriously. She's a functional specialist about the functions of the organs, working all in harmony. It's like holistic medicine, but I guess a bit more scientific. But also she prefers to work based on as natural as possible, but not fanatic, because I mean, sometimes if you break a bone, you're gonna need a titanium nail in there. It won't work with aromatherapy, you know.
That's right.
So she's very much in balance into how to deal with things in the less damaging or in the healthiest way possible. And she's also into thanatology, which is assisting terminal people to die well, and also the people around the deceased ones to be able to face and digest and understand how to let go of life, to detach in a harmonious, peaceful way, and also to digest and understand what going through the process of grieving is, which you cannot avoid. You can only understand it to go through it. So that's a beautiful mission of hers, to help people in these moments that are normally shocking, because in our culture, death is a taboo. So people don't face it until it happens very close or to themselves. So it's important to heal that taboo, which is the main thing that hurts, the taboo.
That's right. So you work together most of the time, all of the time, on your journeys, on your expeditions, on your...
Always.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. It's a very rare thing to be able to do. I know the challenges involved, because my wife and I have always done these workshops together. Well, sometimes we're working with different groups in different countries. I was in Mexico when she was in Egypt, and we actually did a ceremony that was timed to be at the same time, but different time zones.
Wow.
We did experiments like that with different groups. So, we thought, well, we've done enough, and it's time to let somebody else do it. But, to be able to do this, you understand, and I understand, to be able to do this, you've got to have done all the training.
Yeah.
And that takes a long time, actually.
It takes a long time, yeah.
You can't learn it in any school. you have to be there when it's happening again and again and again.
Yeah.
So we are really happy to have been able to meet you, and to what we're going to do with this is we're going to get our fantastic June Angel is her name. She's going to take all of your words and my words and turn them into Japanese for subtitling. And then we will be able to share that with people who we know will be interested in coming next March. And so I will send you details about, you know, how we can maybe figure out what we can do together. I mean, I know we're going to be in Palenque for at least 2 or 3 days, and I would certainly like to spend that time with you and your partner, learning, experiencing, and being in the jungle especially.
Yeah.
So I'll be in contact with you about that, Mario. And I thank you for your time today and hanging in when we had so many Mercury retrograde, you know, whatever that is. It was tough. I couldn't figure it out.
It was on my side.
Yeah, but you know,
audio configuration, something strange happened with the last update, but we figured it out luckily.
Absolutely. And I've managed to record this. So when I upload this to YouTube, not public, I'll share it with you.
Okay.
And I'll edit it, and we'll get it, you know, translated and do all of that work. And meanwhile, I'm going to recommend people go through your incredible. When I saw Conciencia, I mean, I don't speak much Spanish, but when I saw Conciencia, I never thought science. I immediately thought consciousness, right? I mean, Indigena, anybody can understand, but consciousness, and you said it's with science. That's nice wordplay. And then you talk about root nations, and you know the Toltec is not the name of a country or a people. It's actually a state of being, a way of living, which involves direct experience and practical work. And your workshops are useful for get out of a crisis and use it to catapult your success, change habits, how to use your time and energy more efficiently, heal your past. I mean, all of this stuff is precious. And where do you go to get this? Oh, I would like to heal my past and forgive myself and others, Doc. And 85 years later and $8 million in debt, your psychotherapist didn't work. So lovely to talk to you, Mario. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eshan. Thank you so much. It will be great to find you people here. And we're going to have a lot of creative, beautiful fun in these jungles.
I think
and hopefully plant some seeds.
Yeah, and I'll get to meet your dog and your cats. How many cats and dogs are there? I heard them in the back.
You don't want to know that. No, we used to have a very big land that we, for some weird reason of life, we lost. But that's why we have so many. We have 7 dogs and 17 cats.
Oh, wow. Great. 17 cats. Wow.
You've heard them. I'm sure you've heard them through the talk.
I heard them. It was like, it's part of Mario's world, so why cut them out, you know?
Yeah, right.
17, I never thought. I mean, we just got 1 here, and that's enough, you know? I mean,
it's enough. 1 cat is enough, I tell you.
Well, she's a selfish 85-year-old, you know, so what can you do? But, well, we're going to be there for sure. It's time for us to return to that part of the world, which we love so much. We did a long period in the 90s. It was either Mexico or Peru or Mexico. And we felt the same, literally, we felt the same blood energetically flowing through both cultures. We absolutely clearly felt it. We're working with the same spirit here, just you know, different clothes. And we were captivated. And it was really good for us. You know, I remember a picture of me and my wife we took in Palenque when we should have been like maybe mid-40s. But when that picture was developed, it was the old days before digital. We looked
Yeah.
like we were in our 20s. And, you know, I said to my wife, you see that? That's the effect that place has on us.
Ah.
Like, hello, that's trying to tell us something, you know. How come you got so rejuvenated? And so that was like a direct experience of, okay, this place we need. This place we need for recovery and for healing. And so other people need it too. So,
well, that thing is going on still in this jungle. You're going to be very happy to find it again.
Doesn't go anywhere. Okay. Thank you so much, Mario. It's been a pleasure and a privilege. Thank you for your time.
No, Shan, the same was like.
And hello to your family, your cats and your dogs. And we'll be in contact soon.
Thank you so much. Please receive a heart-to-heart hug.
Thank you. Welcome to Real Rover. I'm your roving host, John Craig. Real Rover へようこそ、Craig John でございます。Introducing you to people you would never have heard of if it wasn't for Real Rover. Here we go.